Good morning, friends. I'm going to keep it really real. I just spent my first night in this wilderness area, in the San Luis wilderness area. It was a tough night. The whole reason I wanted to stay in the San Luis Valley wilderness area was because I wanted to take advantage of a free campsite. And I wanted to use the power. Well, as you know, I got here much later than expected last night. Gotta find my shoes. Because I stayed, these are flip-flops, because I stayed in the thermal baths longer than I anticipated, talking to the lovely people that were at the thermal baths, I had to kick, I don't know the expression, I had to put my pedal to the metal to get here. So I was racing here last night in my van to make it before dark because it's a wilderness area. So you want to not be trying to get your camp set up in the dark. And as I was driving here quickly, I was the only car on the road coming this direction. All the other cars were going the other direction. And I got like a strange feeling about it. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly why I was feeling the way I was feeling. But I do know that in the distance, one could see lightning over the sand dunes. So then this weird thought popped in my head like, oh man, maybe these people are all leaving. Like maybe I'm the only car going that way and all the other cars are going that way because it's lightning that way and it's not safe. It's not safe on the sand dunes and it's not safe as a camper. But I said, no, that can't be it. The lightning's so far away. And it's probably just that all these people are going home, that they are done at the sand dunes, they're done camping, and they're just going home. So I proceeded on quickly, zooming down the street, trying to make it to my campsite before it got dark. I make it to my campsite in the nick of time, and I realize that I can't make it back to the spot that I had set up for myself. Like I found a spot that other campers weren't at, and like it was a spot I felt comfortable with, and I can't find it because it's dark and I'm nervous. I just have this like strange nervous feeling. Now, all the RV videos I've ever seen say, if you are going to be camping or boondocking someplace, follow your intuition, follow your gut. Don't stay in a place that feels unsafe even if you don't have a reason to think it's unsafe. But I'm like, well, I'm already here. I've already driven all this way from the swimming site. It's like 2 minutes to 9 p.m. There is barely any light outside. Like I need to buckle down, right? So I feel some relief when I find a spot that has other RVers because I'm like, okay, these people are out here, so that means they're not afraid of the lightning. Like other RVers are a good sign, and I'm not totally in the wilderness by myself. I'd be around these people, so I decide to just, even though I can't find my spot, pull in where these other RVers are. Goodness gracious. The problem with pulling in where other RVers are is that they know you're pulling in. You got your headlights on, it's dark, and you're making noise, and they know you're here. And I tried to pull into a spot, and I couldn't get in because of the way it was. It was just a weird, you have to come in a certain way. So I had come in the wrong way, and it was obvious that like, I was running over the shrubs. It was a mess. I was like off the concrete onto the wilderness that's trying to be preserved. And I was freaking out. I was like, why can't I get in here? Like trying to manipulate the van, and I was backing up, backing in, backing up. It was a mess. I know I ran over 2 or 3 shrubs. Actually, let's go outside right now and see what shrubs I ran over. I gotta find my other shoe. Last night when I finally got into the car, when I finally got into the spot, I jumped out the car. I plugged my stuff in real quick and I jumped back in. And in jumping back in, I lost a shoe because I was afraid that someone would know I was in my van and come and get. I had a bad feeling that there was an axe murderer out here. I really did, which is crazy because everybody I've met out here has been so nice. And I know that was my imagination playing me for a fool, but I was acting like I was at risk. I was acting like an axe murderer was in the Jig campsite. That's how I was acting last night. That's how come I didn't sleep well. That's how come I don't have a shoe. That's why I was sleeping with an axe literally underneath my bed. That's why I slept with the kitchen knife underneath my pillow. And that's why I slept with this at the driver's seat. I did all of that because I was worried about protecting myself in case the axe murderer came. In an effort to protect myself from this alleged or hypothetical axe murderer, I felt like it was critical to make sure that 100% of my windows were covered so that absolutely no light got out whatsoever. Because I figured like the only way the axe murderer would know to come to, my van is if he saw the light in the distance coming, skeeping out of my window. So let me tell you what I did. I have these curtains here, which are pretty decent. They let in this little bitty light, but I could safety pin them. I think my mom did that. Thanks, Mom, for that safety pin. It came in handy last night. But, for the most part, the edges are good. But what about the back window? Man, even though the back window technically closed, it didn't close well enough for me, so I hung up some clothing. You see this? And then I tried to barricade the back door with this metal bar. It was wedged up in here because I was like, if he's coming through the back, I'm going to have to hear him first. I'll have enough time to grab my axe. I was like, no light, nothing. Put everything I can up to cover every single crack in the window I can possibly. That's how I was legitimately feeling. I didn't think I was tripping. I thought I was protecting myself. And I kept saying like, just leave the campsite, go someplace. But then I didn't know where to go. Like, I guess I could have gone back to the place that I had come from, but then I'd have to pay money. And I also, like, in the back of my head, I was like, maybe you're just tripping. But I wasn't tripping enough to stop. So I kept on. All right, now let's find my shoe and tell you the rest of the story, because there's more. Okay, now that I've opened my curtain, found my shoe, it is right there. And you might be wondering why one shoe's up there and one shoe was back here. Well, that's because, let me show you exactly what I did last night. I sat on the axe. Gosh darn it, these things are sharp. Okay, let me tell you. So when I first pulled into the campsite, I ran outside before the lightning and the rain and all that started, just trying to make sure I was inside the house before like the total light was totally gone. So I ran outside and I plugged this into the box and then got back in the car. Well, you might be wondering, why is this here then if I did that? If I plugged it in and it should be outside? Well, because that lightning turned into a storm, a bad storm. Lightning, ding, 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 everywhere. Ding, ding, thunder, vroom, 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 everywhere. That's not how thunder sounds. That's not how lightning sounds, but you get my point. It was loud. It was scary. Rain, on the top of it was like I was in a storm. And so I was like, oh man, I wonder if being connected to the to the outlet with an exposed cord. And then I remember not only was my cord exposed, but the part of the plug that you actually plug into the RV side was hanging out the side of the van. Like, this and its connection were hanging outside the van. The other side was protected because it was in the box of the RV unit. In the box of the electrical unit, but this was not protected. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I don't think that's supposed to get wet. I think it could get a little wet, but it was raining. And the whole thing about RV protection during lightning storms that I saw from all of these blogs is that you want to unplug from shore power. That's what they call it, shore power. Because if there is a lightning strike anywhere on the campsite, all the shore power units are likely connected, and then you could short circuit everything in your van. So, even if you're not struck by lightning, if lightning strikes anywhere on the campsite, then you are at risk. So that's like tip number 1, unplug from shore power. Well, I was plugged into the shore power. And then 2, my actual connection was literally in the rain. It was getting wet, which of course we know we don't want these to get rained on. We don't want like electrical stuff to get wet. So I had these 2 problems. I was like, man, my stuff is out there. Is it worse to get killed by the mass murderer or worse to be electrocuted? That's literally what I was thinking. And so I was like, well, it's pretty unlikely that the mass murderer is actually out in the rain. And if he is, I still have my handy dandy washer and washer. So he'd have to be the kind of axe murderer that kills in the rain and then have to be the kind of axe murderer that is willing to fight, right? So I said to myself, I need to, it's more, the lightning it's not going to have to fight. It's just going to strike. So I said, I'm going to have to go out there, which made me so worried because I had already barricaded myself in, right? And had all the light, and I was thinking nobody would know I was here. But if I go outside, then of course they're going to know I'm here. But I do. So I get up my courage and I open the door. And I wanted to film this for you guys, but I was just too scared. I was just trying to get it done quickly. I could not think about anything but my own safety. So I climb up here. I open this door. Let me show you exactly what happened. And then I go outside and I just pull. Now, if you don't remember, if you didn't see the video with how I plugged this in, this cord was wound up. It was nice and coiled because the RV is only a foot away from the electrical box. So I had maybe this much cord out and all of this was wound up nicely. Man, I was so scared last night. I picked up that cord and I was pulling it in the van like this. And then I got it all in. I shut the door. This is what I did. Let me show you. In the van seat, the front seat, pulling the cord. Then I shut the door and I leap back here like a fool, and my bed was made. So I leap, whoosh, trying to avoid the axe murderer. I was being really stupid. I was so scared that I was being that stupid. And that's how one flip-flop ended up there, one flip-flop ended back here. I don't know where anything else is. I was too afraid to cook, so I didn't. I was just eating hard cheese and uncooked sausage. It was a mess. Last night was a mess. So let's go outside so I can show you. Oh, I barricaded this door too. I barricaded as much as I could to make sure that this mass murderer would not get me. So this is the campsite. That's the bush I ran over. Yeah, I did run over that. Here's the electrical box. So, the actual electrical outlet was covered and it's still dry as a consequence of being covered. But my cord was hanging outside like this, and it had the green cord connected to it. Well, the other thing about pulling out my electrical, which is the reason I decided to camp at this site, well, it's one of 2 reasons. I decided to camp at this site, as you know, because it's free, and then 2, because of the electrical power. Like that, I mean, I was so excited about using it. If you saw my video, I was like, I have power. Well, then last night I sleep in this RV with no power because I was afraid of getting struck by lightning. Let me tell you what else happened last night. So this whole camping trip, I have refused to use the toilet because it is, uh-oh, look at that. My back door was open this whole time. I thought you know what I'm realizing? The electrical locks don't lock the back door. I have to lock that separately. And if the axe murderer wanted to come in, all he had to do is open the freaking door. This is what's wrong with the scenario of being afraid, is that you do stupid stuff. Now, not only did I unplug my RV and try to barricade myself on the inside like a silly person and then leave the back door open, I had to use the bathroom because I was so afraid. I really had to pee. I had to pee twice. I was so afraid. And so I was like, well, I have a toilet in my van. I know I've never used it. I know I don't know how to use it. I don't even know if there's water in the system to flush it. But because I was afraid, being a scary cat, I decided to use the toilet. Here's the toilet. Oh, it smells terrible in there. Yep. 2 peas worth. So it's just chilling in there, which means I probably can't drive away with it like that. And I have to figure out how to flush it. And then when I get home, I have to figure out how to get rid of it. So yeah, this is why I didn't want to use the toilet. I wasn't sure if the system worked. And now I have literal sewage leaking out of the side of my van. That is how my night went. I was being afraid, barricading myself inside of my camper with no power and live sewage. So the good news is that I made it. I am fine. I also texted my mother and my brother my exact location. I didn't want to scare them, but I was like, FYI, I'm at the San Luis Wilderness Valley area. I didn't want to be like, in case you don't hear from me again, my last trace was here. If you have to find my murderer. I didn't want to do all that. So I just said FYI. I made it sound like a post, like update, FYI. Man, if they knew how scared I was, my brother would have laughed. My mother would have been like, if you ever put yourself in a situation like that again. So that's the whole story. I'm going to officially now reconnect myself to power in my last hour here at the campsite.